few months ago, my sister started talking to a boy online named Ben. The two of them had a lot in common and were only about a year apart in terms of their ages. We didn't think anything of it at first, because it's normal to have online friends these days. My sister is really introverted, so it was nice to hear that she had someone that she could chat to. From what I understand, Ben was also there for her emotionally too, if that makes sense. My sister became quite attached to him. Ben also introduced her to a few of his friends as well. They all seem like your typical edgy teenagers, the kind that post selfies with emo song lyrics and stuff like that, similar to what she posts, basically. Ben seemed like a normal, caring friend, and even messaged me a couple of times when he was concerned about my sister being upset. He seemed genuine, and I was happy my sister had found someone like this. One day, my sister asked my mom if she could meet up with Ben in the city. He lived in another state and had organized to spend a week in our state with his aunt, so it seemed like the perfect opportunity for the two of them to meet up. They arranged a date and a time to meet in the city, and my mom and I accompanied her. When that day came, though, he didn't even show up. He made some excuse that his aunt wasn't driving him there, and we figured she was probably concerned about Ben meeting someone he'd only known over the internet. I'll admit, I did have a really bad feeling about their meetup while we waited for Ben to show, but I stupidly ignored it. My sister, understandably, was quite upset that he hadn't shown up. Ben messaged me to apologize to us for having to run around after him. He explained his aunt can be unreasonable sometimes. At that moment, I genuinely believed he was a decent person and wasn't lying about his situation. A couple of months passed with just the two of them chatting away like normal. At some point, my mom gets the idea that she and my sister could fly to his state and meet him and his mom in case she worried. Ben liked that idea, and so they ordered the flight tickets. One day, out of the blue, my sister burst into my room, clearly frightened. She told me to block Ben and the two friends he'd introduced to her earlier. When I asked why, she explained to me that Ben had been a cover-up identity for a person that had previously threatened her using another account. All the pictures he posted were from someone else's account. She found this out and confronted him. His two friends that he had chatted with on his posts and everything were all fake accounts run by him to keep up the illusion. The person, after being confronted by my sister, admitted that they were keeping tabs on my sister. They had been chatting for months, and she had likely told him some personal things too. The flights were immediately canceled after my mom found out, and we were all spooked about the whole thing. I still am, and I'm even a little paranoid about sharing this. We couldn't tell the police because my sister was a dingus and didn't keep a copy of the messages the account sent her. The account was taken down after we informed the guy whose pictures were stolen about the incident. So to whomever this person is, let's never cross paths again. The following story happened to me a few years ago. In hindsight, I was a lot more naive, and I've grown up a lot since, becoming more aware of the risks of using social media without privacy settings. A few years ago, I left my home country to start my master's course and new life halfway across the world. I do not want to share the name of the country I live in now, sorry. Besides my partner, their family, and my housemates, I didn't really know anyone in the area. The first few months were quite hard. I had never lived more than a 3-hour drive from my parents, so being 9,000 miles away from everything I'd ever known and loved was quite difficult. I found myself using social media more than ever, Facebook, Instagram, etc. It was such a comforting feeling scrolling through my phone and seeing familiar faces, watching stories of friends hanging out in places we all used to visit together, getting to chat in my native language. It made me feel less lonely, and quite frankly, I enjoyed sharing pictures and stories of my new city. It was such a low-effort way of keeping in touch, and it made me feel as if I was still part of their daily lives. Side note, I'm not a social media influencer. I don't have a large following, almost all people I know personally, and at the time, I followed back, thinking it was some sort of unspoken internet courtesy. I mainly posted pictures of landmarks, beaches, old buildings, anything I thought looked interesting and that my friends back home would enjoy seeing, since where I live now is heaps different from my hometown. One day, I noticed I had a DM request from an account I didn't recognize. It read, "Hello, Lynn. Follow me?" The profile picture was nothing out of the ordinary, a black and white photograph of someone's back, standing on a cliff or a mountain. Initially, I thought it was a bot, but when I clicked into the profile, I was surprised by the content. Beautiful black and white film photographs of different places around the world. There were no pictures where I could make out a face, and the About Me was very simple with a camera emoji and a name. Since I liked the content, I decided to respond to the message with a, "Hello, I love your photography," followed. I receive a reply almost instantly. "Thank you." They then asked how I was doing. I asked them what kind of camera they used. It was such an innocent, ordinary conversation. I thought nothing of it. The next day, I woke up to a row of notifications, all from the same user. They had liked every single one of my photos, going years back into my feed, and sent me more messages. In one, they asked me how I was enjoying X, the city I'd moved to not long ago. I gave a short one-word answer and a smiley face for good measure, but when they asked in what area I was living, I instantly felt weird and decided not to keep the exchange going. So I left them on red. This caused a flood of messages from their end, now apologizing for asking and explaining that they had asked because they swear they had seen me before and wanted to know if I worked at Anytime Fitness in X borough in my city, which I did not. Thinking this would end the conversation, I replied with a, "Sorry, I think you have the wrong person. I don't work there." A few moments later, I got another message asking if I was sure. I didn't reply, so they sent another, "You wouldn't lie to me, would you?" Then another, "Where do you work?" Buzz, 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 one after the other. At this point, I started getting anxious. I hate confrontation and used to get very anxious over any little altercation where I might have upset someone. So I unfollowed and blocked the account. I mentioned it to one of my housemates and my partner, both of which said it was just some internet troll with too much time on their hands, and I did a good job by blocking them. But after about a week or so, I received another strange DM request. The profile picture was a screenshot of a scene from the film Un Chien Andalou, and the profile had one single photo, the same screenshotted image. The message read, "Why did you unfollow me?" I blocked it immediately. After this, I started receiving a wave of messages from other fake accounts on all of my social media. The messages became more and more aggressive, calling me a liar and a cunt. Then randomly, I'd get one asking how my day was, or if I had watched a certain movie before. I tried contacting Facebook and Instagram, but honestly, I don't think anything came from it, except maybe the accounts were terminated. I changed all of my privacy settings to private, but still the messages continued. I was so overwhelmed and wondered why someone would go out of their way to do this to me. I had just moved country, started school, was trying so hard to start over somewhere so foreign to me. I'd never experienced any type of bullying back home. I didn't have any enemies. Who would do this? My partner suggested I screenshot the messages and get the police involved. But back then, I was so nervous to do anything that I just let it be. I figured the police would ignore a foreigner or tell me to grow a backbone, something I grew up hearing. This game of blocking and deleting profiles continued until my partner, seeing how upset this was making me, messaged one of the accounts telling them to leave me alone and that they were contacting the police if they continued. The account was either deleted or blocked my partner because it disappeared and things went quiet. After a few weeks, I decided to reactivate my account on Facebook and return to Instagram, hoping things had cooled down, and they had. No requests, no messages. It had been almost 2 months since the start of this whole ordeal, and I was message-free. I was in a much better headspace and had made some friends, was enjoying my studies, my job. The incident became nothing but a creepy memory. But then, one day, while I was out grocery shopping at a shopping center, a 15-minute walk from my home, I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. My hands were full of grocery bags, so I ignored it until I got home. When I opened the message, it was from another unfamiliar account, with a black and white profile picture of just an eye. Immediately, my heart sank. My stomach started to turn. I started thinking, is this the same person after all this time? No way. My body started getting hot and a bit shaky. I opened the message, and all it said was, "Hi, friend." Then they had sent a link to a clip from Back to the Future. I was so confused as to why they were messaging, let alone sending a random movie clip. But then I remembered what I was wearing, a Back to the Future t-shirt. I blocked the user right away and deleted my profile for good this time. After that day, I'd never heard from them again. It's been a few years since then. I still don't have an Instagram account, and I only use Facebook to keep in touch with old classmates. I never post anything personal. Occasionally, I will share a Conan clip here and there. I never figured out who was messaging me, if it was the same person, why they were doing this, and worst of all, if they had been watching me. I don't know if it was a strange prank or pure coincidence, and in hindsight, it seems so silly how much it all got to me. But please, not to sound like an overprotective mother, be careful what you share when you take a location and who you follow. And strange, black and white Instagram user, let's not meet. Ever. The story has a lot of build-up. So, I met this friend online the summer before my junior year of high school. I was 16. His name was Flip. We clicked pretty instantly. Our senses of humor matched up, and I felt like we were really good friends. He was a guy, I a girl, but I never really held romantic feelings. Also, I was in a relationship. When I was 16, he was 19. I could tell he had romantic feelings, and he let me know 6 months into our friendship that he loved me. We didn't really have a stable friendship, as he flipped out a lot and would go extended amounts of time without talking to me. He told me it was because he couldn't bear to talk to me, knowing we can't be together because I was dating someone. But I know now that it was more of a control thing, and he wanted to stop talking to me to make me feel like I was missing something. He really hated women, really disliked women, and felt like most are just whores. He told me he felt like I was different, that I was the only true woman he's ever met. Really red flag shit. I was young, and I didn't really think much of it. Our friendship was only online, iMessaging and FaceTiming. Now, when he was on these tangents where he would abruptly stop talking to me, he would go on Twitter and make offensive, demonizing tweets about me to people, like awful stuff. When he came back, I would just ignore that stuff, because he would go back to being funny and nice. So he also had a habit of lashing out at people, taking revenge on people, and just making people feel like shit for fun. Another red flag. But I thought I was special, and that he really cared about me, and would never do anything like that to me. I remember leading up to my 18th birthday, him being 21 now, he said to me, "When you're 18, you're sending me nudes. You don't get to say no." I brushed it off because I knew I wouldn't. But yeah, notice there's just this element of him wanting to dominate. Anyway, fast forward 2 years later. I'm now 18, freshman in college. In October, I broke up with my boyfriend, the same guy as age 16, and Flip took that as an opportunity. He would tell me he couldn't bear not seeing me, and that basically we have to meet or it's all over. Now, I didn't really have romantic feelings for him. My love for him was platonic, but I figured, I'll try the romance. I'll try to love him romantically. I couldn't lose him, so I impulsively bought a plane ticket to where he lives in December. My parents had no idea, and to this day, still don't. I was going to go away on a Friday and come back on a Monday. The college I go to school in is in a city with an airport, so it was easy to just Uber to the airport. This romance that I'm trying to project feels real, and I genuinely feel like I loved him romantically. I was finally going to meet the guy I loved. Now, leading up to the flight, about 1 to 2 weeks before, I started getting cold feet. I was questioning the legitimacy of my feelings and started getting on with a guy in the neighboring uni. I started catching feelings for him and kissed him a day before my flight. At that point, I'd already decided I didn't want to pursue Flip romantically and figured, hey, we've been friends for 2 years. When I get there, I'll tell him I only want to stay friends. Yeah, he'll be upset, but I'm sure our friendship is worth more than that, and we'll be able to have a nice, enjoyable time together. How naive I was. I decided to go on the trip anyway, thinking that maybe seeing him would reignite that fire. Upon arrival, I realized that I did not love him, and I was no longer attracted to him. Regardless, though, he was a close friend of mine for a very long time, and whether I felt a romantic connection or not, I wanted to meet him for the sake of meeting him, just how I would want to meet any internet friend. So it's time for the flight. It's very early. I remember sitting on the plane, contemplating walking out. I just really wanted to leave and not return. I should have listened to my gut. I arrive and go outside of the terminal. I see him sitting in his car, just staring at me, like a very malicious, piercing stare. After a few moments, he gets out of the car. He looks different. It's strange because we've FaceTimed, and I've seen pictures of him, but he looks different, kind of creepier. We hug and sit in the car. It's awkward. I feel awkward. We make small talk and awkward jokes, and in that moment, I wanted to be back in my dorm. We go back to his apartment, and we go up to his room. We smoke some weed, and I lay down on his bed to sleep. When I wake up, he's spooning me, trying to fondle me. I take his hands off and tell him to stop. Then I sit up and basically unload about how I don't want him romantically, only as a friend. He just started crying and begging me to tell him that I love him. I tell him I can't do that. He then stands up, drops crying, goes to the bathroom, and starts lighting stuff on fire. It smells like burning paper in the bedroom now. He comes out normally and just sits on his computer and plays games without talking to me. Now, the rest of the trip is just like a combination of him being kind and normal to him being completely evil. Here's some of the things he's done and said throughout the 3 days. He made jokes about me dying, would pretend to hit me and lunge at me to get close enough to watch as I flinched. Told me he almost sent a snap of me to my mom with a geotag of his town so that I would get in trouble. Told me he almost made me sleep in the car one night. Told me that one night while I was sleeping, he'd walk over to me and just start farting on me. This one was just fucking nasty. Kept telling me to shut the fuck up when I would speak or ask questions. Did it multiple times in front of his roommates, too. He was trying to feel me up in bed, and I kept pushing his hands away, and he would keep trying and would say things like, I know you want it, you're just holding back. Served me spaghetti and told me that he purposely used the moldy spaghetti sauce, hoping that I would get sick, and told me he was going to make me miss my flight home. He said he was planning to drive me to the opposite direction of the airport and drop me off in the middle of nowhere. So basically, I kept my cool, and when he would tell me these things, I would nod and agree and laugh with him. I was scared shitless, and I wanted nothing more than to leave. So I kind of keep it cool, and I spend my time trying not to upset him. Monday rolls around, and my flight isn't until 8 p.m. Around 11 a.m., he goes downstairs to leave, and in that time, I pack my bag and leave without him knowing. My plan of action is to run to the nearest shopping plaza and Uber to the airport from there. I wasn't about to Uber from his house. I'm almost to the end of the street, feeling free, when I feel 2 arms come up behind me and wrap around me. He's hugging me, mumbles something into my ear, and then turns around and deadass sprints back down the street to his apartment. I ran to the shopping plaza, called an Uber, and got in. I felt so much relief in that moment. I felt like I was free. I waited at the airport with nothing to do for 8 hours, but it was better than being in there. I look back and I feel like an idiot, like I should have gone to a hotel, and I should have probably left, but I'm a broke college kid, and I was already scared shitless being here without my parents' knowledge. After I left, I blocked him on every social media outlet I have, including LinkedIn. He still has tried to contact me regularly for 4 months, but luckily I never told him my address or anything. So online friends of 2 years, let's not meet again. Hello, my lovely friends. Before the video ends, I just wanted to say that I hope that you're having a good end of the year. I know that this time can be hard for some, but I hope that you're still having a good month. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you. Stay safe and sweet dreams.